Hi everybody. Excuse my unprofessional camera view at the moment. I still don't really have a setup ready to film my actual art, like my drawings and tutorials and all that, so hopefully I can get that set up soon. But I wanted to go ahead and try to make a tutorial for the Prismacolor markers and this Windsor Newton Colorless Blender. I took the caps off so I wouldn't have to set my camera down as I was doing this, and it's just going to be very quick. So, a lot of people review the colorless blenders in a way that I feel they really didn't, give it a fair shot. They didn't try it out in different ways where it could have gotten an honest review of the actual capabilities. I am an interior design student at the Art Institutes of Pittsburgh, and I've been taking sketching and ideation, which is for interior design renderings. A plan view or a perspective view of an interior with markers or colored pencils. So instead of using Copics, I went with the Prismacolors, as they are the second best rated for such renderings. And rather than have the Prismacolor Blender, I went ahead and got the other one because it was the only one at the store at the time. So I'm going to take this black and then a couple other tones and show you how this blender can work and does work. And also I'm going to show you how other people tend to use it without knowing that it can do these other things. So I hope this will be helpful. I'm not sure if it will. I hope it's decent quality. Again, I still am trying to get set up for more professional videos. So we're going to really saturate this watercolor paper, or this marker paper, I'm sorry. It is Canson, I believe, Canson marker paper, yes. I got it at Michael's, I think, for around $5 or $6, fairly affordable, and works pretty well. So let's make sure this is extra saturated here, just to show. Now we're going to take a 90% cool gray, and then an 80% cool gray. I hope this isn't too awfully blurry here. Oh. Now, just for good measure, let's take an extra light color, a 30% cool gray. And you can see when the paper is highly saturated, you can use almost any color, any other color marker as a blender with as long as it's very saturated, but as you can tell, it will leave a ring, so you have to be very careful to just feather it down. Let's take from the black. So, and this isn't even a blender, this is just a regular Prismacolor marker here. Now, get some of these caps back on quickly. And although the tip seems dirty, it isn't. It's still really wet, which I thought this would run out pretty quickly, but I've been using this for a few months. I got my supplies before the class started, so I could try to, you know, get the hang of everything before I was being graded. Let's go from where there isn't color, just so I can show how it can give a highlight or correct a mistake. Now, when I say correct a mistake, usually it would be very, very difficult to make a correction if you colored outside of the lines or in an area that you didn't mean to. So this would be just for very, very small things. And the reason it works this way is because it pushes the ink. Now you see how that little bitty little line is way lighter than it was before I went over it with the blender. So if you get, you know, right out of the line, right over the line or something, you can kind of use your blender and push the ink back across the line. I've had to do it a few times, and it's definitely very helpful for that. I also usually use the fine tip rather than this large tip. There may be a few other things that you can do with this large tip that I'm not aware of yet, but I know there's a lot of other videos on here that explain these markers probably in a much more professional way than I can. So if you're needing a little more information than what I was able to give you now, you know, I'm sure there's somebody who can, or who has the content that... I'm so sorry, my camera stopped working on me there. But yeah, just to give it a little bit cleaner edge rather than the black pooling down there when you go up and down, rather than in one direction, like pulling the ink down. And then, you know, if your tip gets really dirty, wipe it off, and you can go back in and feather it for a smoother transition. And this is obviously a very messy tutorial here. If you were working on a professional rendering or even just an art piece that you use markers on, you would want to take a little more care and precaution to make sure it doesn't look quite so all over the place. And going in the same direction and all of the main rules that they have for using a marker, you know. Now, let's see what we can do like this. I am using the side of my fine tip for a larger contact area. Now let's bring it out a little bit more. And I am going back and forth here with this. Now, on the end, I'm going to go in one direction, pulling the ink. And we went from black to a 90% gray, and this is 80% over here. Now my tip is quite covered here, so we'll take a little bit of that off and continue on over here. A little bit lighter pressure and pull. Carefully to try and minimize the amount of stroke lines. Oh. Oh, it's starting to rain. You might hear a little thunder in the background there. I apologize if so. Now you can tell the gradient, and you can see how saturated the paper is. It is very, very wet. However, on the back side, you can't really tell. If you look, you can almost see my... Again, I'm sorry, I reached my maximum recording time. I had to make some storage space so I could quickly finish this up. But as you can see, this is the back of the saturated paper where we did our blending. And it has to have a lot of ink on the page to get that smooth gradient and be able to actually blend the ink out rather than just create a highlight on it, as it kind of tends to push the ink out of the spot that you put it into. If I can even get it to work that way. I know that's how a lot of other people use it, to make small highlights or make their colors lighter, but for me, the actual blending is what I use it for, and use it for, best. If we used the broad tip here over the gray, let me try to get steady. It will minimize the lines. And that seemed to create the highlight a little easier than the nib side, the fine point tip. And then just clean the tip off. After some uses that you may need to actually remove this to clean it. I know there is a video on here. I'm not sure who uploaded it, but I know there is at least one video on how to clean your marker nibs. And you can always buy replacements, I believe. So let's try to make a small highlight. Well, that seems to be darker, that spot. Bring it up here in the black. I mean, you can kind of see where it gets light. However, it causes a darker ring as it pushes the ink out of this area. It causes a ring around the highlight. So I don't know if that would be the best technique for creating a highlight. I've used white pencils, and I know you can get pastels or, you know, similar things like that. So you may want to test out and find your favorite way to create a highlight rather than try to use your blender. You may be able to figure out how to do this in a way that doesn't create the ring around the outside of it. Feel free to comment if you have an explanation of this. I don't know if this video will get very many views, as I know it's pretty low quality. But I really hope it was helpful. If you have any questions, I'm always online. And I definitely don't have a lot of activity going on my account, so I'm probably more likely to answer you than a lot of other channels are. I know this is the first art video that I've uploaded other than my recolor video, and I want to try to get more of these out of my either marker, or I like to use charcoal a lot, and my drawings or techniques for that. So if you have anything that you want to see specifically, let me know. I have a 9-year-old son who is dying to be on YouTube. I mean, he talks about it every day. He wants to do Minecraft videos. But he also helps me a lot with my art projects or little things. So if there's any kind of kids activities you want to see, or even adult activities you want to see, coloring pages, how to find adult themed coloring pages and color them realistically with either marker or color pencil, you know, anything that you can think of. I definitely need more ideas for more content, so you know, just feel free to give me some tips or advice, especially on this. Again, like I said, I don't have a setup. I'm actually holding my phone as I'm recording this. But I really appreciate the views. Remember to subscribe. I really appreciate you stopping by. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it helps those of you who have seen the reviews about the colorless blender and people saying that it doesn't really blend two tones together, because I find that to be extremely false and misleading. That's why I wanted to be sure and upload this you know, little tester here. I don't know if it would work better with other brands of markers or actual color tones rather than grays and blacks, but I've been using it for shadows, so maybe we can try out the colors next time. Have a good day or night. Thank you.